Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi folks, welcome back. Now, I say this with no joy. I want to make a case for the judge in the Rittenhouse trial, Judge Schroeder. Not just to call a mistrial, but to call a mistrial with prejudice. And what that means is all the charges are dropped. Kyle Rittenhouse walks away scot-free. He cannot be retried. And I know the defense has asked for a mistrial with prejudice, like I'm suggesting now, and then later an oral suggestion for mistrial, a motion, I should say, is the proper term, for mistrial without prejudice. This whole thing, and I think the judge has done the best he could. I think the judge is similar to, especially a little bit older. I'm 65. He's probably about 8-10 years older than I am. And the problem is with us conservatives that are this age is that we believe in rules and we believe in fairness. And we believe in the system will work if given the opportunity. And the people that are fighting this, in this case, almost all of the mainstream media, social media companies, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, you name it, don't give a good damn about the system. They don't care about it at all. This is about changing the culture and changing the society. This trial is about what there's always been about for the progressives and the leftists, power and control. And they cannot take over if there's still courts that rely on the rule of law, i.e. the Fifth Circuit Court that squashed, at least temporarily, Biden's vaccine mandate. It's all in the same mix. It's the culture that's really on trial. This trial isn't about Kyle Rittenhouse. This trial is about everyday average Americans that have the constitutional right to defend themselves. And progressives and the leftists hate this. And they're not playing by any rules at all, except for one: win at any cost. And I think, frankly, I hesitate to call people evil because that's a big deal. I think these people are right on the borderline. And I say Krause and Binger, the two assistant district attorneys. What they've pulled so far, and the judge has not so much allowed it. He wants the jury to make the decision because he believes that the system works, and it does. But the problem is the other side, in this case, the prosecutors, don't care about rules, they don't care about precedent, and they don't care about the system of law. They could care less. It's about winning an ideological war rather than a criminal trial. I mean, he even had the assistant district attorney, I believe his name is Krause, given his closing summation that Kyle Rittenhouse brought a gun to a fist fight. And we've all taken beatings before, and he should have taken his like a man if he wanted to go down there. Now, those of you that say, well, Kyle shouldn't have been there to begin with, that's a different issue entirely. He had a right to protect, and it was his community. He's from there originally. His dad lives there, his grandmother, his aunts, his cousins. It's his mom that moved. It's only about 20 miles away. So let's cut through all that crap. Might have been poor judgment, but he had it right. Now, from last year, the carryover from the chaos from all the BLM riots, Antifa, these same individuals are down there now. And the whole thing was a lie of the riots were to begin with. Young black man, police got a call from a mother saying this guy was trying to kidnap and steal her child. I think it was his child as well, but she had custody and he wanted to take her. And when the police got there was a big ruckus. He pulled out a knife, tried to stab somebody, and was shot. And for that, the mainstream media, who's in cahoots with all these guys, either directly or indirectly, said, it's another police shooting, another innocent black man. I mean, they were making out the two that were shot by Kyle Rittenhouse and killed out to be these martyrs and saints. There's people walking around outside the courthouse in Kenosha would picture these guys calling them heroes. I can't say what the one did, Rosenbaum especially. He did some very, very, very horrendous things to boys 9 to 11 years old, and repeatedly, not just once. This guy's a monster. Absolute monster. It's not even counting the rest of his rap sheet. Now, does he deserve to be killed? Not for me to say. I'm not God. But that's the twisted part. They're making these guys out to be saints. They're making out, what's his name? Gage, the one that got shot in the arm that lived. He's on Good Morning America the day after he lied 4 times on the stand that I could count, maybe more. And he was just a hero. And they thought it was an active shooter. And he was out to stop the active shooter, which is a total lie. It's not even stretching the truth. Usually a good lie has got a little grain of truth in it. This has nothing in it. Didn't mention the fact at all that this guy got charged with assault for hitting his own grandmother. Just 2 weeks prior to that was his second DUI that mysteriously vanished on a technicality. If you want to see, there's like a 4-hour video on when Gage got arrested for a second DUI in the process from the car and then the blood samples and all that stuff, and he was released. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff this guy has done. He's just a loser in general. He's out to be a saint. He was going to kill Kyle. And don't forget, on top of that, he had a handgun tucked in his waist. Even Kyle knew when he went to buy a gun. Now, he's not allowed to buy a gun, so he gave his buddy the money, that he couldn't carry around a handgun in Wisconsin, where the weapon stayed, by the way, the whole time. Never left the state. That's a lie. Did he cross state lines? He knew a handgun was illegal for him to purchase. When he turned 18, he was going to do the purchase on paper back to himself. Kyle would be the new owner on paper. Never got to that point, but he even knew the law. This guy, Gage, and he was never charged with a weapons charge. I mean, he sat in the witness stand and let the prosecutor let him lie after lie after lie and never called him on any of it. And defense attorneys, of course, brought out the truth. He put a gun up to Kyle's face. Kyle was defending himself. Same with Rosenbaum. And the other one, I forget his name offhand. And the video is so crystal clear that it's self-defense. But I'll tell you why I should think this should be a mistrial with prejudice. Look at the illegal and unlawful things the prosecution has done. Look what the people around the courthouse in the Kenosha area have done. And I don't mean the locals. I mean people have been brought in to protest. They've intimidated witnesses 2 or 3 times, especially once when they were getting on the jury bus or van, whatever they call it. They caught somebody taking photos unlawfully. Police made them delete it, and the judge says, we'll change the procedures. Once, when the prosecutor called in Kyle Rittenhouse's Fifth Amendment rights, a huge no-no in a huge constitutional matter with a defendant, right then and there at that moment, the judge should have stopped it all and said, you know what? I'm calling a mistrial with prejudice. Mr. Rittenhouse, you're free to go. And that's the problem. These leftist progressive prosecutors and district attorneys, they play fast and hard with the law and the rules. They break the law all the time, and they're never held in account. And this judge could have done it, but he wanted the jury to make the decision because he still believes in the system. And then the prosecutor did it again on his Fifth Amendment right, and the judge was just furious. There's videos all over YouTube. Still didn't call a mistrial, and that's when they finally said, we were calling mistrial with prejudice. The defense finally said something. Because they don't want a mistrial either and do this whole thing over again. And to get a mistrial with prejudice is very, very rare. Total misconduct on the prosecutor's part. Both of them should be disbarred, if not charged with crimes. And then the final straw for the prosecutor was the videotape. I should say digital video, where they gave a copy, everything they're supposed to have the prosecution, they have to give the defense, and vice versa. Well, they gave a video to the defense. It was really grainy and really blurry. And then you can't really see anything, and they were implying all kinds of things in that video that computers would enhance, and it was all lies. And then during the closing dissertation for the prosecution, they're showing that same video. And the defense noticed, wait a minute. There's so many videos and so many different angles, and they all look the same after a while. And then they realized, wait a minute. You have an HD version of this video. We never got it. In fact, as they're showing the video, the two assistant district attorneys, the prosecutor said, well, we'll show our version. It's much clearer. And then as they realized what happened, I think on purpose, and I'll go into that for the last part of the mistrial, the defense went, wait a frickin' minute. This is ridiculous. We couldn't prepare properly for a defense. In closing arguments, it's a little late. And so the HD video was shown to the jury with all the preparedness of the prosecution to make it look like something it wasn't. That he provoked those guys earlier in the night with his rifle. And it wasn't self-defense. He provoked them. And that was the whole case. And then all hell broke loose. And even the judge said, you're on the edge, but he still believes in the system. He still believes in the old rules. He still thinks that the prosecution and the district attorneys at large are still playing by the rules and believe in the system. They don't. He should have slapped them down then and said, mistrial with prejudice, goodbye, Mr. Rittenhouse. And then maybe even charged the prosecutors. But he didn't because he believes in the system and the juries of guilt and innocence. He's playing checkers and the prosecutors are playing chess. You can't win. But he had the authority. So they were showing video after video, cleared out the courtroom, brought in the jury, and now we're in 3 days of deliberations, which probably means they're deadlocked. And if it was done properly, I think Cal would have walked away with self-defense. And then to add it on top of it, the media was just ripping the judge. He made several comments. Ripping the judge, ripping the defense attorneys, all kinds of slanderous lies. And the jury wasn't sequestered. So I'm sure some of it filtered down to them, just from their family and friends. And then the final straw was, like I said, the video, and it very much looks like, that the prosecutors faked the video. In other words, gave the defense a blurry copy on purpose. It looks very much like that, and I believe they did it on purpose. And they got away with it. And then finally, the MSNBC freelance, who was working for MSNBC as a freelance reporter, was caught following the jury van. The only reason why they got him was he ran a red light trying to keep up with the van and was pulled over. and admitted he was working for MSNBC, and he was instructed by a producer in New York for MSNBC to follow the van. But was he going to get pictures? Was he going to find out who they were? He says he wasn't going to talk to any of them or take any pictures. Then what the hell was he there for? We all know better. And then the producer at MSNBC, you go to look up, because her name was mentioned, you go to look up her Facebook and her other social media accounts. She deleted them all. All of them gone. Of course, they're archived somewhere, but she deleted it. She wanted nobody to see what she said prior to that. This whole thing has been a cluster blank from the beginning because progressive leftists play by no rules. And this is something this judge probably isn't used to at all. So, Your Honor, Judge Schroeder, I assure getting up in age. This is the case of the decade. Now, I'm old enough to remember O.J. Simpson case and what happened there. And that was a huge case. The Menendez brothers, and there's a bunch of them. But as far as the progressive leftists and the people that love this country and its institutions, this is the case. They have to be punished for their cheating and manipulation and callousness with human rights and the Constitution of the United States. So if Kyle walks away not guilty, they still broke the law. They still manipulated things, and there's no punishment for them. Well, they just lost the case. But if you dismiss it with prejudice and say that I'm doing this because of them, and I want an investigation done and maybe charges brought against the two prosecutors, then we can start fighting back. Then you can say, those of us that believe in Constitution and our system of laws, though not perfect, is the best that's ever been devised. And we try to do our best to make them work. And we still believe in our institutions and our law. Unless he calls a mistrial with prejudice, they will get away with murder. Almost literally. So, Your Honor, I'm making the case to you. You seem to be a decent man. I know you don't want to do this. And that's the trap of the conservative people, is they don't want to go to extremes. But you're going to have to do it, sir, because it's the right thing to do. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.